Since the last time we were on the air, they lose by 30 points on Thursday night at Rutgers. They lose by 23 points on Sunday afternoon at Ohio State. 2 games that you would look at and think are winnable, but then you remember that, no, those are bad teams Michigan was playing. Michigan's a terrible team. They now have 22 losses, ties the program record. Unless they beat Nebraska Sunday, win the Big Ten tournament, and win the national championship, and have no losses from here on out, they will break the record, have the most losses in Michigan basketball history, kind of officially one of the worst teams in program history. And it's tough, even tougher right now without Olivier Kamwa to get some of these wins against these bad teams. But Nebraska's a good team coming in on Sunday looking to cement their spot in the NCAA tournament. But the even bigger news, Anthony, was Friday when John Sanderson officially resigned from Michigan, the longtime strength coach, renowned strength coach, who did a great job, famous for developing all sorts of talent at Michigan, turning him into lottery picks, first-round picks. I mean, Nick Stauskas, Karis LeVert, Kobe Buffgun. You could go on and on of the guys that stuck around in the springs and in the summer and put in the extra work with Sandman. But a big blow for the Michigan basketball program. They haven't had him for a few months, but he's now officially not with the program. They reach a settlement, and some of the details of the altercation with Juwan Howard from back in December, at least from Sanderson's standpoint, were emerged in the athletics report from Brendan Quinn and Katie Strang.
The thing that, maybe if they had their strength and conditioning coach, they wouldn't be so gassed at the end of games and lose by 23 points or 30 points. And part of that's depth and talent. Like, this team is bad. They're terrible. They're bad because Juwan Howard built this team, and that they were built to be bad going back to last May. This predates heart surgery stuff. This predates Sanderson stuff. It predates all of that. And I said that back in the summer. For me, it's, not only has the bedrock of competency completely eroded away from this program, with John Sanderson being gone and pushing that guy out the door, because make no mistake about it, it was him being pushed out the door. You've lost one of the key cogs in what made that program successful under John Beilein and what made it very successful in the first, 2 to 3 years of the Juwan Howard era. And, it's just, this thing has bottomed out in a way that I'm not even sure I expected it to. To not have, I have so many questions still about this John Sanderson situation, but the one takeaway, because it does seem like this is a lot of he said, she said. I'm sure there's a Juwan Howard side to it too. I'm sure there's a Michigan side to it. I'm sure there's a player side to it. I don't really care. I mean, at the end of the day, when we talk about this program being bereft of talent, being bereft of player development, to have not only one of the most important guys in that regard with the program anymore, and his son is one of the best basketball recruits in the country, you can go ahead and kiss that pipeline away too. Like, I just feel like the program got worse on 2 fronts, and likely more fronts than that. I mean, this is it's a damn shame. I think that's the way that I would put it best. The fact that it's just more drama in the athletic department. What was the line from Succession, Clay? You can correct me if I'm wrong. The poison drips. It drips. It finds a way to drip from the top, or whatever the quote of it was.
Sounds right.
When there is this much drama, this much mismanagement with men's basketball, with matters pertaining to men's or to the football program, to a lot of the Olympic sports that have tapered off over the last few years. I mean, there's no mincing words for it. I mean, this is Ward Manuel and this athletic department it's just been so badly mismanaged over these last several years. And for some reason there have been, and I'm not saying anyone here is like this, but there's been like a hesitancy to say that. What is Ward Manuel's legacy? And I'm not turning this into a Ward thing. This is a Juwan and John Sanderson thing, but it's just something else under the banner of the athletic department where it's just like, what the hell are we even doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's another just a weird situation. Like to have, I think it was described, was it the analyst calling the game on Sunday where it's like, and he was kind of using it saying like, well, it's hard to evaluate what this season is for Michigan.
And I'm so tired of hearing that too, by the way.
But he talked about the distractions that this team has faced, and a lot of them are kind of self-inflicted. It's like Doug McDaniel in one of the most unheard of situations where he doesn't play in road games for six road games and is playing at home. And then, by the time they come back, and they were 6-9 when that decision came down. So it's not like they were having a good season, but by the time he comes back for road games, this team has basically mailed it in. I mean, the effort has been something that they've been able to, keep at a relatively high level throughout the year. But the last two games have been pretty brutal in that regard. No discipline, especially in Sunday's game. But you have that situation, another distraction being this John Sanderson situation. I mean, it's something that happened months ago, but it's probably had an impact. You have a new strength coach that's kind of filling in on an interim basis, Mike Favre. It's just not the same. I mean, there's a reason why he's been called the secret weapon to the program, and the reason why Juwan Howard years ago talked about him as one of the reasons why they had a lot of success early on in his tenure. So it's just like it'd be one thing if the basketball wasn't as good as you would like it to be, which it's not even close to where you want it to be. But then you have these other situations, and I think it's really disappointing. A couple of the key details from the report from The Athletic, and again, you can go read that over at The Athletic, Brendan Quinn and Katie Strang. But basically what had been reported, by Jeff Goodman and some others when this incident happened is essentially what was in some documents that were obtained by The Athletic. Sanderson writing an email to Ward Manuel, which was him kind of filing a complaint there. He said that Jace Howard was berating a trainer that caused a scene before practice. Sanderson intervened from 30 feet away, saying, "You're a student athlete. He's a professional. You don't talk to a professional like that. That's disrespectful and entitled." Then he said that Sanderson wrote that Juwan Howard came at him angry and ready to fight as staff and players held him back and separated the two individuals. He kept aggressively pursuing me to fight, Sanderson said. There was the internal review. Nothing was found to warrant disciplinary action for anyone involved, Ward Manuel said. But John Sanderson, which seemed to be a source of frustration for him, was not able to talk to the players that he has worked with for years. The Michigan basketball team was in the building, maybe doing work with the golf teams that he also trains, but he said no one should indicate that it is voluntary, Sanderson wrote, of basically having no involvement with the program. So it just, like you said, it's just like, it's a shame, essentially what happened.
Yeah, I mean, why? This is one of the bigger questions I have, because we do know that Juwan has the zero tolerance policy in his, I don't know if it's on his contract or what it is, but obviously, we're talking about a multiple time offender in terms of not being able to control his anger. And again, I'll say this with the asterisk next to it of we don't know the other side of it too. I trust John Sanderson's account of it. At the same time, it is just one account of it and we probably won't hear the other accounts of it because no one else will go on the record about it. But, with that zero tolerance thing on his docket, why did Juwan, why they had the excuse to be like, hey, Juwan's going to sit out the road trip at Iowa for whatever, insert reason here, while it gets investigated. I mean, it was blown up to be a bigger thing, I think, because Juwan Howard was there and because the body language was, looking back, extremely odd in that game between he and the staff. And even though that was a game they won too, one of the few games they've won this year. So to me, I don't, if it's because I'm rambling, it's because I'm still like, I don't understand any of it. I really don't. I don't know why the culture is so bad to where, forget that it's Juwan's son and a guy who's a team captain or has been a team captain, and Jace, you have talking back to a training staff member. You've got someone else on staff yelling from 30 feet away. You've got the head, anytime I see, a quote saying the head, Juwan is ready to fight. Weren't we past that 2 years ago? I mean, wasn't, I'm just so done with all of it. Like it would be one, like these are the things that get magnified when you are terrible, but it's just all, it just all has to go in the evaluation of, are we really going to run this back? Because you listen to that broadcast on Sunday and it's, again, I am extremely sympathetic to the heart surgery thing. I mean, that is, my father underwent a serious heart procedure, of quite a few years ago. And it's scary and it takes a lot of work to get back from that. And I am so extremely sympathetic to that. But when you talk, you hear him, talk like the Doug McDaniel thing is such a distraction to the team. Well, guess what? They have academic advisors that are supposed to make sure that this shit does not happen. The John Sanderson thing, again, another self-inflicted wound. Most of the things that ail them are self-inflicted, and it's not bad luck. It's bad management. It's bad leadership. Quite frankly, I mean, again, I don't know if I can't even say I don't know if it should be allowed to continue. It can't continue because every time you think it can't get worse, then they lose by 30 at Rutgers. And then they get blown out by an interim coach at Ohio State, who's done an excellent job. Like, no disrespect intended to him. This is the first, Michigan athletics, the teams that we've covered, I've been doing this is year 10 for me. And there have been teams that are bad. There's maybe, in terms of the class of being teams where you just can't wait for this season to end, this one's at the top of the list with a bullet.
Yeah, and it's not just that the season's bad. There's not a lot of hope for the future. You don't know who's going to stick around. There aren't really young guys that are playing well that you feel like there's promise for the future. And there, the young guys that are playing well at times, like a Doug McDaniel for a game here or there, or Terrace Reed for a game here or there. You don't know that they're going to stick around. They're going to have options to go other places because those are two talented players.
And they probably will because Michigan's NIL is terrible. Yeah, there's another issue, right?
Issues like that you weren't able to retain, an All-American that you had last year. So, yeah, that's, I think, what makes it most disappointing is when John Beilein had a couple down years and they missed a tournament in 2015. A lot of that was due to injury. It wasn't great to miss the tournament, especially after the success you had. But you kind of knew that the guy in charge, knew how to get them back on track. And it doesn't mean that there weren't hard decisions that were made to help them throughout, different portions of the John Beilein era, because he turned over his staff at one point. There were things he had to do, but the fact that he was in charge, a guy that had gotten 4 different programs to the NCAA tournament, gave you a little bit more confidence. The fact that it was a different era where you had young players that you felt like you could, kind of feel good about the future with, it just does not feel like that at all. And it's not like that at all right now.